May I request you all to put your cell phones on silent mode and please leave the room or enter only during the applaud section so that we don't disturb the proceedings. Nothing so serious about this. It's just that the officers are going to take, so I don't want you all to have a serious face, but as and when we progress, I hope it is entertaining, innovative and informative while the current officers take the turn. Me being the outgoing Sergeant at Arms, it's a pleasure to relax down and give it to the new set of officers. And what better day than today when we have our Division Governor and Dr. Vijay along with us to give a speech and their suggestions and ideas as well. With that note, I would like to invite them officially with a token of appreciation. Without further delay, I would like to call upon our outgoing president to give a speech on how his term has been and what he has in the upcoming term for this club. Please put your hands to welcome Sridhar Balasubramanian.
It's been about 7 years since this club was founded, and today, this term is almost like a full cycle gone through for me. I was doing a similar speech in 2006, I think. That was the first time we got the club and the offices running. Great year. And of course, the club has gone through a lot of ups and downs, a lot of cycles. But I think the one thing that has never changed is the commitment, the passion of the members. I'm not here to prepare a long speech, just that I'm going to keep it very short. So Archana said we can't be serious. Of course, I kind of have a contradicting view on that, because as officers we have a serious role to play. So we got to be serious today because we're taking new set of roles. Some of us may have done this several times in the past, but for some of the others it's setting new focus, new challenges. That's the one thing that really keeps me going with Toastmaster every year. This is my 10th year of association with Toastmaster. Though, as we talked before the session, though some of us may have done these roles several times in the past, every time we try this one more time, we try to learn new things, right? And also we go through a new set of challenges. That's, I think, the learning for all of us. Last year is no different from the previous years. The club had its great moments, the club had its share of problems, and I think we as the leadership team, I think we kind of navigated through probably the best way that we could really do it. And the last 2 months has been phenomenal. I don't know if it is a coincidence that some of us got out and new set of things have taken in, but I think I'm extremely happy because last 2 to 3 months, every week the session has been, we have not missed a single session so far. And also each session has been with a lot of existing members, new set of members. People have been taking almost all the roles are filled in even before we get into the session. Of course, Jose, we certainly do miss you. Didn't want to put you on the spot, but just wanted to convey that. So do come back. Your leadership, your thought process, ideas, everything has been really inspiring for the entire.
I guess I'm also part of the coincidence you mentioned.
Sure, but again, we would like you to come back. I think what pleases me the most is the enthusiasm, the new set of officers, especially people like Sudhanshu, people like Vamshi, Ravi. For them, they had not done these roles before, and they were actually a little bit hesitant, but then we all just pushed them, forced them into the deeper side of the pool, and they gladly took that role. And the result is that last 2-3 months they have really taken the office, the bearership. I think it's been phenomenal. Again, I really want to take this moment to thank from the bottom of my heart to all that they have been really doing. And of course, there is also, before I close this out, I want to talk about one special person. I had been, I think many of you probably would already guess, I was this person's first manager in Cisco. But today when this person comes to me, I say, you tell me what I need to do. Right? She is my boss as far as a lot of other things are concerned. That commitment, that enthusiasm, whether it is, she also has done pretty much every role multiple times, whether it is the president's role, whether it is Sergeant Tom's. Of course, in Toastmasters there is no hierarchy, or there is no which is a better role versus something else. But she really has not shied away from taking any responsibility, any role, any opportunity that really either by force or by choice. So I really want to thank Archana for that. In fact, after I stepped down as the founder president in 2006, at that time Archana had not joined Cisco, and this thought always goes on to our minds, that okay, who will do this? Because one thing we all like about Toastmasters, like the US, the term of the presidents is that I can do only for 2 terms, right? And after that, we have to really let this opportunity be given to a new set of people. So at that time, this thought I think went through many of our people who kind of jointly started this. I think other than, I think it's only me who is left out in the first set of people, right? So went through our mind, okay, who is really going to be the next set of people who will take this torch, right? Again, a lot of people have come and a lot of people have gone, but Archana is certainly one person who has not, who has never left the club, and more importantly, who has, as I said, has always been the first one to take any role, any opportunity, whether it's leadership, whether it's communication, right? And all I would say to Archana and to the rest of the leadership team is try this opportunity and also go beyond the club. Right? Look at opportunities at the area level. We have our divisional governor, we have senior Toastmasters like Dr. Vijayashree and Jose and others. The whole area, the whole division really supports us. So let's just take those opportunities outside our club, whether it is area governor or divisional governor or any other role, right? Because that's the best way we really can learn. And I have done my part there also, but then so many commitments I could not do that, so I just backed off. But opportunities, people who really want to kind of be on the fast track in terms of communication and leadership, those are all additional opportunities that we really have. And also great to see people like, for example, Shamya, who has just been few months into our club. I don't want to break the suspense, we'll probably hold on to that, but what she, with the help from, the guidance from others, has done is something phenomenal. In fact, 7 years of Samvad history, I have not seen that, so you will probably get to see in maybe some time from now. With that, once again, thanks Gauri for being here, thanks Dr. Vijayashree, and of course I will not thank Jose because he's been always going to be Samvad young. So with that, let me call upon the Master of Ceremony for today, Sumaya.
Let's give a very warm round of applause for the outgoing president, Sridhar. Nothing in this universe is free, except for that free advice. But the only free thing people don't want to take is again the free advice. Fellow Toastmasters and dear guests, a very good afternoon. And today's theme is free advice. Advice is not always requested with an intention to take it. Sometimes we seek advice from people whom we ask advice from people when we want to flatter the advisor. Or sometimes we ask advice, it is an excuse to spend time with the advisor. So if you ask for an advice, free advice is always free flowing, anyone would give it to you. And advice can also be a way, seeking advice can also be a way of apologizing, because you've not heard, you've not paid attention to what their advices and their orders all these days, and you just want to show a token of respect. Okay, I'm asking an advice for you, from you. So this advice is always the swang of the passing generation. We do something incredibly well, or we do something very bad, we consider it as our experience. And this experience, we convert that into advice and pass it on to the generations next. So today we have a similar situation in Toastmasters, where it's a legacy. We are passing a responsibility from one generation of Toastmasters to the next generation. It's the officer's installation ceremony. But the only difference between that free advice and this part of Toastmasters is that every generation of Toastmasters, every generation is an achiever here, and every piece of advice that is passed on is worth a million. And today we have one such achiever amidst us. She has been Toastmasters for more than 7 years, and she is the former president of Smedley's Speaker Society, a president distinguished area governor last year, and an environment consultant by profession. May I request Division L Governor Gauri Sheshadri to please come over and address the audience. Please welcome her with a big round of applause.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
It's truly a pleasure for me to be here. Thing being, I've heard so much about Cisco Samad in the last 2 years. I moved back to India 2 years ago, and one of the very first Toastmasters that I met is still a crucial part of Cisco Samad, Sheila Ravi. She was one of the first Toastmasters I worked with. We were part of a team together and gotten to know each other quite well. And I also heard Prateek's name. He was mentoring another club, Sridhar's name, of course, former area governor, Archana, Jose, though I knew him from Mekon Communication. So there's been a lot of activities that I've heard of Cisco Samad, but I've never had the pleasure of ever visiting Cisco Samad. And today, on such a joyous occasion, it's my first visit to Cisco Samad, and therefore I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for the invite. Really enjoy being here. And as Sridhar said, it's been 7 years. In fact, on 20th September 2005, Cisco Samad was officially chartered. So exactly a week ago, you celebrated your 7th birthday. And just for that, shouldn't you all say happy birthday to Cisco Samad? One of the oldest corporate clubs, and in these 7 years, you've become distinguished 3 times. You've gone through a lot of ups, and you've gone through a lot of downs. But regardless of that, the officers, crucial core officers like Sridhar, Archana, Sheila, have kept switching over the roles. One year they were the president, the other year they were the sergeant at arms. In fact, I was teasing and telling Sudhanshu, okay, next year you're going to be the sergeant at arms and Mamshi is going to be the president. So they have kept the club alive, no matter how low or whatever downs you've been through. The club has still been alive, and the club has also contributed outside. You've given birth to a new club, Cisco Vani. You've mentored other clubs like Symphony. Sridhar's been an area governor where he's taken care of 3 or 4 clubs under him. Sheila Ravi, of course, has been an organizer at various events. You've done so many things outside the club, and I think now is the right time for you guys to focus in your club. Build this club back to its glory days. Get it back to what it used to stand for. Let Cisco Samaj shine again. Let the parent shine again and show the child how it is done. And by parent and child, I mean Cisco Samaj and Cisco Vani. You guys are the founders. You guys are the senior Toastmasters, the veteran Toastmasters. Sridhar is 10 years. Man, that is fantastic. You've got people like Jose, who is not officially a part of the club, but you can, I'm sure, always use his advice and help. If there's
He is officially.
See? Make sure you renew his dues are due. You've got people around to help, and you've got a full big network, so take their help. When I took on my term as division governor in July, I looked at Cisco Samad on paper and I saw 12 members. Oh my God, that's going to be a problem club. Little did I know that there was so much of energy change going on in the club, until one day a message popped up on my Facebook page by a guy out there who said, hey, I've seen you before, I've met you before, I'm from Cisco Samad and I want to know more about the officers training program because we are interested in attending it. And that guy out there was Vamsi Krishnan. He opened the doors of Cisco Samad. We've had continuous correspondence since then, Vamsi, correct? And he's been very optimistic, and all the news I get from him is like Cisco Samad is going through a change. I came here and I was like, okay, this is my first time here, let's see how bad the club actually is, how much help does it actually need. And then, you know, there's a surprise that will be revealed later, which I know already, thank you. But the president, Sudhanshu, was talking about all these things, how the officers, new officers are all enthusiastic about taking the club to the next level, how the members are enthusiastic. Sridhar spoke about the sessions, and it's exciting and energizing to learn that this year Cisco Samad will put on a new face, a fresh face in front of the world. Congratulations and thank you very much. I'll now walk you through the installation. It's an official procedure and a formal procedure, so there's a script, and bear with me while I read it. May I have all the outgoing officers please stand? Archana, Jose, I think you were not.
You are a form. Yes.
Any other outgoing?
You are true, right? You are true.
Yes.
We carried for 1 year, so.
Understand.
Fellow Toastmasters, your leadership team has been active in many behind-the-scene activities to help make your club successful. On behalf of your fellow Toastmasters and Toastmasters everywhere, I congratulate you on your successes and thank you for your dedication and efforts. At this time, I formally discharge you from all further duties and responsibilities as officers of this club. Please join me in a round of applause for your outgoing club officers. It's now time to call the next set of officers who will continue the tradition of this club and take it to greater heights. I now invite the new club officers to stand with me at the lectern, starting with the treasurer first, secretary. You want to hear? Secretary Archana, BBP Mohammed, next to Archana. BP membership Ravi. Vamsi and President. As you all might know, your Sergeant at Arms is Toastmaster Sheila Ravi. She couldn't be here today. So we'll start with the installation of the officers. It gives me great honor to install the officers of the Cisco Samad Club and to prepare them for the challenges that lie ahead. Their collective challenge is to make this club strong, dedicated to helping people from all walks of life to speak in an effective manner, listen with sensitivity, and think creatively. I'll now ask each officer to hold the gavel as a symbol of leadership as I briefly describe the challenges he or she must meet and the responsibilities he or she must fulfill. And I request the officers, when you're holding the gavel, hold it like this, not like this. Okay? You're not here to pass judgment. Please step forward, Sridhar. Toastmaster Sridhar Balasubramanian is the incoming treasurer. Your duties include collecting and paying semi-annual dues on time, accounting for all of the club funds, preparing checks, processing deposits, reconciling the bank account regularly, reporting the current financial status when requested, and other duties assigned by the club president or the executive board. Will you perform these duties to the best of your ability?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. I must remind you that the dues are due September the 12th.
That's a lot of work now.
Secretary. Toastmaster Archana Pami, you're the incoming secretary. Your duties include keeping records of the executive committee meetings and the regular club meetings. Your records form the basis of many of the club reports and other duties assigned by the club president or the executive board. Will you perform these duties to the best of your ability?
I will.
Thank you. Toastmaster Mohammed Vikar is the incoming Vice President of Public Relations. Your duties include promoting the club meetings through local media, websites, and flyers. Of course, you can't forget Facebook. You will utilize creative methods to disseminate information about the club, its members, and Toastmasters in a way that will ensure a stream of guests to attend the club's weekly meetings as well. as other duties, as well as other duties assigned by the club president or the executive board. Will you perform these duties to the best of your ability?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. Toastmaster Ravi Srinivas is the incoming Vice President of Membership. Your duties include connecting with all the guests before and after the meeting, explaining the Toastmasters program, assisting them in their decision to join, helping them to fill out the forms, processing the completed membership applications, and other duties assigned by the club president or the executive board. Will you perform these duties to the best of your ability?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
It's like a uniform.
Toastmaster Vamsi Balemati is the incoming Vice President of Education. Your duties include charting a course of speaking and leadership for all of the members. That includes finding out the member goals, scheduling the meetings, tracking member progress, creating a fun meeting environment each week, and other duties assigned by the club president or the executive board. Will you perform these duties to the best of your ability?
Yes, I will.
Toastmaster Sudhanshu Gowda, you are the incoming president for the Cisco Samad Toastmasters Club for the term July 2012 through December 2012. You are the chief executive officer and will be expected to preside at all club meetings, regular and special executive committee meetings, and other club functions. It is your challenge to see that this club enables its members to achieve their educational goals. It is also your challenge to see that your club helps the area, division, district, and Toastmasters International to meet their goals. Please accept the gavel as a symbol of your leadership and dedication to the office. The gavel is a symbol of the power and authority given to you by the membership of this club. Use it wisely and with restraint. Always remember that you are a member of your team as well as a leader. Will you, as president, accept this challenge and perform your duties to the best of your abilities?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. It's now my pleasure to declare, keep holding on to the gavel, it's yours now. It is now my pleasure to declare these Toastmasters installed into the offices to which they have been elected. Will all the members of Cisco Samad please stand? Honorary member. The growth and development of the Toastmasters program in Cisco Samad depends largely upon the action of this group. On your honor as men and women of Toastmasters of Cisco Samad Club, do you pledge to individually and collectively stand by this club, live with it, and work with it throughout the coming year?
Yes, we do. Yes.
Thank you very much. Fellow Toastmasters, as the installation officer for today, I declare the officers of Cisco Samad to have been duly installed for the term July 1st, 2012 through December 31st, 2012. I now call the incoming president. Please address the gathering. You can leave the gavel.
Thank you. Governor. Dear Toastmasters and dear guests and respected guest Dr. Vijayasri. I am passionate about music.
Yes.
I love to spend some free time whenever I get singing to and listening to light classical music. There was a day when my name was being called upon to sing for 2 minutes as I was contesting in a vocal music competition in Cisco campus. Being the first contestant, Archana handed over the mic to me, and as people says, human brain is a wonderful thing. It starts working the moment you are born, and until you are given a chance to stand in front of a crowd and address something. The same thing happened. The next moment, I forgot for what I have been standing here. Though I have a piece of paper where whole lyrics was written, I forgot. I'm unable to even read through that. I could hardly able to stand only for hardly 20 seconds, and then I came out. The moment was so embarrassing. I couldn't even sit there to see how other contestants are doing. It is not the only case. Even during the team meetings, I was a silent listener. Somewhere, the fear was there. It was all because of fear. The fear of standing in front of crowd, the fear of speaking in front of some people. I realized I have got to do something with this fear. Then I came across an organization that provides opportunity for advancement. An organization that helps and cares for anybody and everybody. An organization that helps you to realize yourself, your potentials. That is none other than Toastmasters International. How many of you think here leaders are born? And how many of you think leaders can be made? I believe it's both. In both ways, if you think. Some people are born with exceptional qualities. Some people have the potential to bend the history. They are born with those kind of qualities. But that is not the full stop. If I ask people, right, how many of you think you are a leader? Regardless of you raise your hand or not, your inner voice says you are a leader. Somewhere or other, you are leading something. It is not only the leaders are born, leaders are made. And Cisco Samvad is the club here in B2B building, where we have a very committed members as well as officers. And I have thought of contesting for president that time, just to have a feel of what it takes, what do you feel when you get a chance to lead something. Today I am proud to say that I have got an exceptional committed officers as well as the members who are starving to take the club to the next level. They are always in a mood of helping people to achieve their goals. And this is the place where you can always come back and realize yourself, you realize your potential, the height that you can reach, you realize your goal. Remember, the secret of life is not what happens to you. It is what you do with what happens to you. What do you do with your fear? It matters. What you do to know the potential strength that you have, the height that you can reach, that matters. Someday you are going to start. I think it is time now. You can start thinking in that direction and join our club and invite more and more guests. With that, I am handing over this to the Toastmasters, Sumaya.
Thank you, Mr. Sudhanshu. And let's hear it for the new team again. If it's free, it's advice. If it's paid, it's called counseling. And if either of this is of any use, then it's a miracle. Miracles do happen. Here in Toastmasters, we advise people, and wise people take that advice and make miracles happen. And for this, we need a vision that can take this club ahead, a vision that can make numerous miracles. And to share this vision, I would again call upon the new president, Sudhanshu Shekhar Gowda.
So as I have called out, with the new officers that we have got, with a lot of potential within themselves to take the club to next level, we aim to achieve to be a distinguished club and many more. and we are aiming to create more and more leaders in Cisco, and we definitely see there are a lot of improvement as of now, as Sridhar has already called out. And I must thank Sridhar, Archana and Josh being the inspiration all these days to the club. And as I have already Gauri has mentioned and Sridhar has called out, Sridhar and Archana were always, it's kind of two eyes of this club. They have been the life, and definitely we are going to take their help and achieve many more things in coming year. Thank you.
Thank you, Shri. Thank you, Sudhanshu. Advice is like snow. The softer it falls, the longer it dwells upon, and the deeper it sinks in the mind. And when it comes to sinking in the mind, who else can do it better than a professor or a teacher? Fellow Toastmasters and guests, she has been in the field of academics for over 2 decades. With a doctorate in psychology, she teaches at Bishop's Cotton Women's College, and she is a continuous learner. Her hobbies: reading, writing, traveling, adventure sports, swimming, I could not memorize this, Toastmasters, life skill training, and she takes all of this in small doses as a regular tonic. Please welcome the keynote speaker for today's session, Dr. Vijayashree Ravi, with a big round of applause.
Thank you, Sumaya, for that warm introduction. It's always a real pleasure to be part of this human network, one small link that completes this gathering here today. The title of my keynote address today is a dilemma that all of us are confronted with today. But before I get into that, I'm sure today I'm addressing here a few seasoned or partially seasoned Toastmasters, a few aspiring Toastmasters, a few fence-sitters maybe, and maybe even a few curious minds that wonder what all this talking is about. So the title of this is a dilemma that all of you at some time or the other would have faced, and that is to speak or not to speak. Now, different experts have different views on this. Some would say, if it improves the silence, go ahead and speak. If you have nothing to say nothing. Or, let's look at the advocates of freedom of expression. They would say, each one of us have a right to speak or express ourselves. We also have a right not to speak. It's good to exercise that right too. King Solomon of the biblical times believed that there is a time to be silent and there is a time to speak. Now, the trick is to know when to do what. Closer home, part of growing up, my mother used to always tell us, if you have something nice to say, say it. Otherwise, don't say anything. So this applies to even those conversations you have within your head, where I've always practiced saying nice things to myself. That builds my self-image. So at this time, when we're all driven by this digital communication, I want to stop and put a little speed breaker there. Before we are really caught up in this wind that we call as digital communication, the art of conversation, which is at the very heart of every form of communication, is something that we must never lose out on. How do we do this? Most often, the most common way of opening a conversation with anybody is to ask the simple question, how are you doing? Before even the response forms in the other person's lips, you've moved on, you've surfed channels and you've moved on to somebody else. So why the question? Most often, the typical neutral conversation starters would be neutral topics like the traffic jam, the weather, the climate, and all of that. It never goes deeper than that. Now the question is, should it go deeper than that? Well, social psychologists like me believe that the quality of our conversations really determines the quality of our relationships. When I say the simple word hello, the tone in which I say it sets the stage for what follows. A simple hello, how may I help you, is a typical receptionist tone that you would hear. And that's a practiced, seasoned conversation. And you do your business. Now, if it's a hello that barks into that receiver, you're quite sure that person has been disturbed out of his peace and doesn't really want to be carrying on this conversation with you. The warmth with which you say your hello reaches out to that person and makes that connection, and that would set the stage. I think we all have a lot to learn from rocket science when it comes to launching conversations. Every time a rocket is launched into space, there are a series of systematic, precise steps that are put in place before the actual blast-off takes place. So for a conversation to actually take place, a rapport needs to be established. And that rapport would be simply establishing a certain amount of comfort level. Now, I would simply say questions are the life breath of any conversation. But we Indians take it a lot seriously. So I would say, what's your name? Where are you from? Married, single, children? I would simply go on. It's not really a rapid fire question that you launch onto a quiz session. This is something that you go step by step. Firstly, in any art of conversation, I would maintain a space where I would say every person has what is called as a space bubble, and you wouldn't want to invade or intrude into that space bubble. So the more intimate the person and the conversation, the space narrows down. And when you're in this zone of comfort, you launch into your conversation. Now, what goes after that is something that the two people strike together. It's a wavelength, or it's the warmth of the conversation that flows. For most of us, conversations are like verbal sunshine. It kind of warms the heart and it heals many a raw wound. So conversations, I think the best conversations happen over a cup of coffee maybe over the fence with a neighbor, maybe even with a rank stranger sitting next to you on an airplane. The power of these moments would be if you could stop by and realize the possibilities of conversation and interaction that can happen here. Now, if we are in too much of a hurry, we may miss out on these possibilities. As teenagers go these days, their speaking kit would typically consist of 4 four-letter words. Good enough for them. So you give them a UCK at the risk of being politically incorrect. You let them prefix it with an F, an S, or a Y, and they can actually express anything from love, hate, disgust, frustration, just with this arsenal of 4 words. Now, this communication experts would say is the best. Simple, clear, brief. But is that all? Now, the incident that was recently doing the rounds was the student from IIM who committed suicide because her boyfriend dumped her on Facebook. Now, this communication again was very simple, clear, and brief. So what went wrong? I believe everything about the typical communication sequence went wrong. The message, the medium, and the context. All of that was drastically wrong. And the result again was disastrous. So virtual world gives you the anonymity for all the wrong reasons. And it makes your absolutely private life public. And that's not what you want to do in the typical art of conversation. So the virtual world, in my mind, is not such a great medium to begin a relationship, sustain a relationship, or even end a relationship. It's best done over a conversation, F to F, or if I may say, face-to-face communication. Even a parent today finds it very difficult to connect with their teenage children. They have to compete with all these electronic gadgets they're wired to, and an Xbox, an iPod, all of that. And I recently witnessed this conversation between a father and son when the father was asking the son, how's college? So he unplugs himself and says, cool, not much. Am I paying through my nose just for this not much? not connected, and this communication barrier is quite difficult to break through. All of us, I think, very badly want to make this connection. I want to make this sparkling conversation in any kind of an office get-together. Fill those awkward pauses with the most brilliant of repartees or wisecracks. All of us have this. And sometimes we look at the internet for these cheesy one-liners of how I can make this unforgettable impression on my girlfriend, perhaps. The cheesiest one I've come across is, do you have a map? I'm simply getting lost in your eyes. Say, if you want to impress a girl, just be warm, genuine, spontaneous, and give her a compliment on something other than her looks, and you'll definitely make a lot more headway on that. So, conversation across spaces is a very, very important art that we are possibly losing out on. Now take the workplace. Do you really want to speak, or sometimes you decide not to speak? You're damned if you do and damned if you don't, right? Now, if I do, you have various opportunities for making these conversations and discussions, budget meeting, performance appraisals, all of that. Now, do I want to sound sharp and intelligent in these meetings and say the right things, brainstorming sessions, volunteer my ideas? If I volunteer my ideas, I'm responsible to execute those ideas, so I probably don't want to, so I decide not to speak. But when I decide not to speak, there's somebody else poaching my ideas and presenting them as their own. Do I want to sit there quietly looking like a jackass because that's my idea that's being projected there? Now, like a professor at Nancy Boyer, a professor at the Tufts University, quite an expert on communication at the workplace, says most people fear, or rather choose not to speak out at the workplace because it's simply easier not to. So what could be the advantages or the benefits of actually speaking out in an office place or a workplace? I would simply say definitely the momentary liberation from zipping up because you want to volunteer with the flow of ideas that you have. And definitely sometimes this haunting hypocrisy, should I be saying what I don't mean? I don't want to be doing it. These are dilemmas that you could be faced with. And sometimes it's this hardcore optimism within each one of us that truth should ultimately prevail. In my opinion, for all these dilemmas that you would have in the workplace, you have to perform the heroic act if you believe it's a question of your values, if you need to take a stand. And I believe what I say is very, very important. Now, when it comes to this, the art of conversation, the bottom line is you have to rely on the biology of communication rather than the technology of communication. It's very, very important to make that connection with another person. Now, in conversations, as much as it's important for us to say the right thing at the right time, it's also important for us to remember how not to say or leave unsaid the wrong things at the most tempting moment. All of us suffer from this foot in the mouth disease, right? So that could get you into a lot of trouble. Getting your foot out of that is going to be really very difficult. So you don't want to damage your reputation or somebody else's with deciding to speak. So the bottom line is again for you to use your discretion to decide when you want to speak and when you don't want to. Now, years ago, there was this man who said, I have a dream. This was Martin Luther King in 1963. When the world sleeps, India will awake to a new freedom and life. It was Jawaharlal Nehru in the year 47. More recently, an entire presidential campaign on one line, yes, we can. Barack Obama. Now these are power statements. If you or me made these statements, it would be heard and probably forgotten. But the force and power of these statements lie in the fact that there was a personality behind that, there was a context, and the impact it made on history. Not all of us are attempting to be acclaimed speakers on the political landscape or whatever, but in each of our own spaces, we would like to be someone who says something that is effectively heard. So in my opinion, apart from this Toastmasters thing of being capable or competent communicators, we need to be amicable communicators. It's not about what I say, it's also about how I say it. For example, I came across this incident where there's a blind man sitting on a busy street corner with a tin cup beside him with a board that said, "Blind, please help." The whole of humanity was passing by back and forth, and there was nothing happening falling into his tin cup. There was an ad professional who walked by that way and wondered why this was happening. She picked up that card. On the reverse side of that, she wrote something and left it there. Soon after, things started happening, and that tin cup was overflowing in a very, very short while. So this blind man calls a stranger beside him there and asks him what was written on that. It said, "It's a beautiful day, you can say it, I can't see it." So it's not simply about what you say, it's about how you say it as well. So if I put this in perspective, art of conversation is something that can enrich your personal, your professional, and your public and political life as well, if you choose to, in whatever space you would like to. So at the end of it, before you have anything to say, if you want to go by King Solomon's advice, before you speak up, ask yourself this question: what is going to add value to this interaction by being silent or by speaking? If you have the answer to that question, speak or do not speak. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Dr. Vijayashree Ravi. I am sure you guys might have picked up no cheesy one-liners and understand the biology and the technology of communication. And now, fellow Toastmasters, the moment of surprise we all were waiting for. Cisco Samvad Toastmasters has been playing a great role in polishing the communication skills, the verbal communication skills till now. And now it's time to hone your writing skills. Cisco Samvad Express, a newsletter, a way to express your written communication skills. And to tell more about this, I would request the editor-in-chief, Shamya, to please come over the dais and let us all welcome Shamya to the dais.
Just one correction, it's not the first time, second time. I know Pratik did that for the first time, so just wanted to put that on the record.
Madam Toastmaster, fellow members and guests. So, as Dr. Vijayashree said, she actually gave you an option whether to speak or not, but I am not giving you any option. You have to write. Next time, for the next release, you have to write in the newsletter. So here it is, it's Cisco Samvad Express. So it all basically started with that mail that Archana sent to our mailer list. She basically asked for some to start a newsletter, but when we spoke, we had all these thoughts flowing, and we wanted some forum where our members can practice their writing skill, and it's something that you may do every day. Like for example, you may write a poem to impress your spouse, girlfriend, or maybe you want to take an interview to have that journalist instincts of yours to feed it, or maybe it's some article, some information you want to share. Anything it is, we welcome it all. So we are going to have the next release again in October, and without waiting in December, sorry. So before waiting for that, I request you all, please send all the articles you have or poems or whatever it is to Cisco Samvad mailing list, and you are in for the show. Thank you, Shamya. I'm sure you all are ready with your write-ups now. I forgot that in the excitement of releasing it. So the first one, of course, I would like to give it to Dr. Vijayashree. Thank you, Shamya. And now, as a token of appreciation for the outgoing team, I would request the President, Sudhanshu, to come over and please hand over the mementos.